Hey, what's going on, guys? This video is not necessarily a lesson, but it's more of just a helpful tip that I think can help a lot of guitar players out there. Alright? Basically, what I do is I use a processor pedal and I set it up in a manner such that each of the buttons on the processor pedal functions as an individual stomp box. And I connect it to my amp in such a way that I maintain the natural tone of my amp, okay? I essentially bypass all the amp modeling, processing stuff. I use my amp's tone and I apply effects pedals to it, okay? So if I were to plug my guitar directly into my amp, I would have purely amp tone, alright? So if I were to plug a few stomp boxes in between my guitar and my amp or into the effects loop, I would still have my amp's tone, but I would just be adding the effects to it, okay? So that's essentially what I'm doing with this processor, alright? And the processor pedal I use is the Boss GT100. Okay, I've also owned a Boss GT10 before, which was the older model. I've owned a Boss GT6. And so I know you can do this with all the line of Boss pedals, all the way down to the Boss GT6. Any older than that, I'm not sure, but all the way from GT6 all the way to their current model, the GT100, I know you can do this. I don't know if you can do this with other processor brand pedals. I don't know if you can do this with you know, Digitech or Line 6. You may be able to, but watch this video and see what I do, and then you can do your own research and then see if what I'm telling you would apply to those other brands. But what I do is it worked great for the GT100, and yeah, it's just a really great tip. So basically, the GT100 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. GT100 has 8 pedals that I can use to essentially do a function each. So I have pedal number 1 set to be my chorus pedal. Pedal number 3 is my delay. Pedal number 2 is tap delay, so I can tap in how fast I want my delay to go. Pedal number 4 is just a solo booster. The bank up button is a compressor. The bank down is a reverb. I don't use the phrase loop pedal for anything, and I use the control pedal actually as a it switches the channel on my amp, okay? So I have a dirty channel and I have a clean channel. You can only do this last thing. You can only use one of the pedals to function as your amp foot switch if your amp's foot switch takes a 1/4 inch, okay? So if your amp's foot switch takes any other kind of cable other than a 1/4 inch, some sort of like 10 pin connector or something, then it won't work. But if your amp takes a 1/4 inch, like most Marshall amps do, I have a B52 amp. The B52 takes a 1/4 inch. If your amp's foot switch takes a 1/4 inch, then you can do this other thing, as I'll show you as I zoom into the pedal. Okay, so here you see my Boss GT100 pedal. You can see it has 4 cables going into the back of it, actually 5, and I'll explain why in a second. But basically the way I set this up such that I can use my amp's tone is called the 4 cable method. Alright, you might have heard about this somewhere before. I don't know if you can do this with other effects processors, but I know for a fact that you can do it with the Boss effects processor. So forgive me if I have some bad camera work here, but I'm going to try my best to show you exactly how I do this. Alright, so I'm zooming in here, adjust this, zoom in a little more. Alright, so basically I have 4 cables here. Alright, one cable goes from your guitar to the input of the amp. Or I'm sorry, from your guitar to the input of the pedal, right here. That goes to your guitar. Alright, the second cable goes from send right here to the input, the front input of your amp. Okay? Now the third cable goes from return, which is right here, to send in the back of your amp. Alright, and the fourth cable goes to output mono to return in the back of your amp. Okay? So I have this all written down in the post that's associated with this video. But again, 4 cables. One goes from your guitar to the input of the pedal. Second cable goes from send on the pedal to the front input of your amp. The third cable goes from return on the pedal to send in the back of your amp. The fourth cable goes from left mono output on the pedal to return in the back of your amp. Okay? Now that's the 4 cable method. By doing that, plus one other step, which I'll tell you in a second, will allow you to retain your amp's tone without using any processed sound. Okay? I just wanted to show you the one other pedal I use, which is plugged in right here. This is called amp control. Alright, I have amp control plugged into the back of my amp where my foot pedal would normally go. My foot pedal that allows me to switch from clean to dirty. Alright, now this 5th cable that I'm using right here, which allows me to switch from clean to dirty, will only work on amps that use a 1/4 inch jack for your pedal foot switch. If you're using something like a Mesa or something that has a multiple channel amp with multiple pins for the connector, it will not work. It'll only work with 1/4 inch cables. Okay, so amp control is plugged into the foot switch of my the back of my amp, which allows me to use one of my pedals on the Boss pedal board to function as a clean and dirty switch. Alright, so let me zoom in a little bit more. Actually, now that's actually a good view. So once you have your 4 cables connected, you just have to do one more thing. You have to hit the effect button. And once you hit the effect button, you have to use the select knob to go over to where it says SR. Okay, so right where it says SR, I hope this camera's picking this up. Alright, so right where it says SR, it's highlighted now. SR is highlighted. That has to be on. If it's off, it'll just look like a picture of a dot. If it's on, then it'll show the picture of the pedal. So SR needs to be on. No matter what version of the Boss effects processors you're using, if you're using the GT100 like I am, or you're using the GT10, or you're using the GT8, or any other older models, there is a way to turn the send return within the pedal on or off. So that always has to be on. That means it's making the connection with the back of your amp using the send and return in the back of your amp. Okay, so that's really the only thing you need to do. So once you run all 4 cables as I told you to, and you turn that SR on, now you're using your amp's tone. And then the only thing you need to do now, let me zoom out here. Alright, the only thing you need to do now is put it in manual mode. And on this particular pedal, manual mode is accomplished by hitting bank up and bank down at the same time. So if I hit them at the same time, then I'm out of manual mode. If I hit them at the same time again, I'm in manual mode. And all that manual mode does is allows you to assign each of these pedals to control an individual function. So the way I have it set up is pedal number 1 is my chorus. So with that, chorus is on. Chorus off, chorus on. Pedal number 2 is delay tap. So however I hit that is the speed of my delay. Number 3 is my delay button. Okay, so delay is on, delay off. Number 4 I have set up as just an equalizer with everything flat except for the volume. I have the volume up a few decibels, so it acts as a boost. So boost on, boost off. Then I have these set up as compressor, which I don't really use, and reverb, which I use sometimes but not really. And then I have this one set up as amp control. Alright, which is that's that 5th cable that goes from the amp control to the back of your amp where your foot switch would go. So now this is taking place of my foot switch. So this is my clean channel on, and now this is my dirty channel on. So clean, dirty. And I can use any combination of these. So I can have my dirty channel on, I could have my volume boost, I could have my delay on, I could have my chorus on, all at the same time, and the lights light up as they tell you as which one's on. So essentially this is now functioning as a it's functioning as a bunch of individual stomp boxes where I'm retaining my amp's tone. Okay, and let me just zoom in one more time to show you one last thing. And it's super easy to change which one of these pedals does what. You just do that with these knobs. So right now, directly over each of the knobs it's showing, okay, this is compression. If I want to change it, I just turn it. Okay, now it's overdrive, now it's preamp, now it's EQ, now it's FX1. Okay, but I want to keep it at compression. And you can just do that. So this is the bank down pedal, this is the bank up pedal, this is number 1, this is number 2, number 3, number 4, the phrase loop pedal, and the control pedal, which is what it's called, okay? So, and then you can adjust the parameters of each effect within the effects chain, okay? But that's beyond the scope of this video. But basically that's about it. It's super, super easy. You connect the 4 cables from the processor to your amp, and then you just turn the SR on, and then you just assign each pedal the function that you want it to do, and then now you have a bunch of individual stomp boxes. And that's about that. Okay, so if you have any questions, don't hesitate to comment or shoot me a message or whatever, and I'll be glad to answer them. All right, and I also wrote a detailed blog post along with this that explains exactly what I said here, just in case I missed anything. All right, thanks for watching.